The ancient ruins looked peaceful under the pale blue light of Kepler 442c's twin suns. Dr. Amanda Price knelt beside a carved stone wall, carefully brushing away centuries of dust with her soft bristled tools. The markings were unlike anything she had seen before in her 15 years as a xenobiologist. They seemed to pulse with a faint energy that made her instruments beep softly. "Find anything interesting down there, Amanda?" called Captain Jake Morrison from the entrance of the dig site. His voice echoed off the stone walls of the underground chamber. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes, the sort of captain who knew every crew member's birthday and favorite coffee blend. "Maybe," Amanda replied, not looking up from her work. "These symbols are definitely not from any known civilization. They're too complex to alive somehow." She ran her fingers over the carved surface, feeling a slight warmth beneath her gloves. Engineer Lisa Barnes poked her head through the narrow opening that led deeper into the ruins. Her coveralls were already dirty from crawling through tight spaces, and her blonde hair was tied back in a messy ponytail. "The energy readings are getting stronger the deeper we go. Whatever powered this place might still be active." "That's impossible," said Veltar, one of the Zeltharian researchers. The tall, blue-skinned alien moved with careful precision, his forearms holding different scanning devices. "Our preliminary scans showed no active energy sources. These ruins are over 10,000 years old." Amanda smiled at the alien's certainty. Zeltharians were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and careful scientific methods. They rarely made mistakes, but they also rarely took risks. "Sometimes the impossible is just waiting for the right person to make it possible," she said. Communications Officer Alex Turner's voice crackled through their comm units from the ship above. "Captain, I'm picking up some strange readings from the moon's core. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Jake pressed his comm button. "Define strange, Alex." "Well, sir, it's like the whole moon has a heartbeat. The energy pulses are getting stronger every few minutes. It started about 20 minutes ago, right after the team went deeper into the ruins." Amanda and Lisa exchanged worried glances. The Corvan scientist, Dr. Hexalon, began frantically checking his instruments. The Corvan were known for their analytical minds and love of mathematics. If something worried a Corvan, it was usually worth paying attention to. "Captain Morrison," Dr. Hexalon said, his voice tight with concern, "I suggest we evacuate immediately. The probability of this being a coincidence is less than 3%. "Now hold on," Lisa said, wiping her hands on her coveralls. "We just got here 3 days ago. We can't run every time something gets a little weird. That's not how discoveries are made." Jake nodded slowly. He had worked with humans long enough to know they had a different approach to danger than most species. Where aliens saw warning signs, humans often saw opportunities. "Let's gather some more data before we make any decisions. Amanda, can you tell us more about what you found?" Amanda stood up and pointed to the wall she had been studying. "These symbols aren't just decorative. They're instructions, or maybe a warning. The translation software can only make sense of about 30%, but I think this whole complex was some kind of control center." "Control center for what?" asked Veltar, his voice filled with the careful tone Zeltharians used when they were trying not to panic. "That's what we need to find out," Amanda said. She picked up her tools and started moving toward the deeper passage. "Lisa, can you bring some of your equipment? I want to see what's behind that sealed door we found yesterday." Lisa grinned. She loved a good technical challenge, especially one that made the alien crew members nervous. "Already ahead of you. I've got cutting tools and scanners ready to go." The sealed door was made of the same strange metal as the symbols on the walls. It had no visible handle or keypad, just a smooth surface with more of the pulsing markings. Lisa ran her scanners over it while Amanda studied the symbols. "The metal is incredibly strong," Lisa reported. "My tools might be able to cut through it, but it would take hours." Amanda pressed her hand against the door, feeling the warmth and energy flowing through it. "Wait, let me try something." She placed both hands on the largest symbol and closed her eyes, trying to feel the rhythm of the energy pulses. "Amanda, I must advise caution," said Dr. Hexalon. "Unknown alien technology should not be activated without proper safety protocols." "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts," Amanda replied. She pressed harder on the symbol, and suddenly, the door began to glow brighter. The energy pulses that Alex had detected from the ship grew stronger, and everyone's instruments started beeping loudly. The door slid open with a soft whisper, revealing a chamber filled with crystals that pulsed, with the same blue light as the symbols. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with what looked like a control panel covered in the same ancient markings. "Incredible," whispered Veltar, despite his earlier caution. "This technology is far beyond anything we've encountered." Amanda stepped into the crystal chamber, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful, and it's still working after all these years." That's when everything went wrong. As soon as Amanda's foot crossed the threshold, the crystals began pulsing faster and brighter. The energy readings that Alex was monitoring from the ship spiked to dangerous levels. The ground beneath their feet started to shake and loose rocks fell from the ceiling. "Get out of there," Alex's voice shouted through their comms. "The whole moon is lighting up like a Christmas tree. Energy readings are off the charts." The chamber filled with a high-pitched, humming sound that made everyone cover their ears. The crystals were now pulsing so fast they looked like solid light, and the ancient control panel was covered in moving symbols that seemed to write themselves across its surface. Lisa grabbed Amanda's arm and pulled her back from the pedestal. "Whatever you activated, we need to shut it down now." But it was too late. The energy pulse that had been building in the moon's core finally reached the surface. A wave of blue light erupted from the ruins and spread across the landscape. When it reached their ship, the Aurora's Hope, all the engines died at once. Alex's panicked voice came through their comms one last time before the communication system failed. "Captain, we've lost main power. The engines are dead. Something is jamming all our systems." Jake looked around at his team. 2 humans and 2 aliens all staring at him with growing fear in their eyes. Above them, their ship was now as dead as the ancient ruins had been moments before. The only difference was that the ruins were very much alive now, pulsing with energy that seemed to grow stronger every second. "Well," Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm, "I guess we're going to be here longer than we planned." In the crystal chamber, the ancient control panel continued to display its moving symbols as if it were trying to tell them something important, but none of them could read the message, and their ship was too damaged to take them home. They were stranded on a moon that was waking up after 10,000 years of sleep, and they had no idea what it wanted from them. 3 days had passed since the ancient ruins came alive and killed their ship. The Aurora's Hope sat silent on the moon's surface like a metal grave marker. Inside the ship, the crew had gathered in the main meeting room, their faces lit by the dim glow of emergency lighting. Jake Morrison sat at the head of the table looking at the faces of his crew. The 2 Zeltharians, Veltar and Zinara, had their blue skin looking paler than usual. Dr. Hexalon, the Corvan scientist, was running calculations on his portable device with shaking hands. The humans looked tired but determined. "All right, let's hear what we know," Jake said, his voice steady despite everything. Lisa Barnes spoke first, her engineering report short and grim. "Main engines are completely dead. The energy pulse fried. Every major system. Life support is running on backup power, which gives us maybe 6 days if we're careful. The communication array is working, but barely." Alex Turner nodded from his position near the communications panel. "I've been sending distress signals for 3 days, finally got a response this morning." His voice was tight with worry. "And?" Jake asked, though he could tell from Alex's expression that the news wasn't good. Alex pressed a button and Fleet Admiral Zethan's voice filled the room. The Corvan's words were calm and measured, the way they always were when delivering bad news. "Aurora's Hope, this is Fleet Admiral Zethan of the Coalition Fleet. We have received your distress signal and analyzed your situation. After careful consideration by our best scientists and tacticians, we have determined that a rescue mission to your location carries a risk factor of 87% ship loss." Jake felt his hands curl into fists under the table. The recorded message continued. "The energy pulses emanating from your location make approach extremely dangerous. Coalition regulations clearly state that we cannot risk additional ships and crew for rescue operations with less than 20% probability Of success. Your situation has been classified as Code Black. Total loss expected. Silence filled the room like a heavy blanket. The alien crew members nodded slowly, as if they had expected this news. To them, it made perfect sense. Logic dictated that saving 5 lives wasn't worth risking 50 more. There is more, Alex said quietly. He played the rest of the message. We are sorry for your loss. Please record final messages for your families. Your sacrifice for scientific advancement will be remembered. Coalition Fleet Command. Out. Dr. Hexalon looked up from his calculations. The Admiral is correct. Based on our supply situation and the ship's condition, we have a 12% chance of survival beyond 6 days without rescue. It would be logical to enter the stasis pods to preserve oxygen while we wait for the end. Veltar nodded in agreement. It is the way of things. We knew the risks when we chose to explore unknown space. At least our families will know we died in service to knowledge. Zinara was already preparing her personal effects, organizing them with the careful precision her species was known for. I will record my final message for the family archives. Perhaps future generations will learn from our mistake. Jake stared at them in disbelief. That's it? You're just going to give up? Captain Morrison, Dr. Hexalon said gently, it is not giving up. It is accepting reality. The mathematics are clear. Amanda Price had been quiet throughout the meeting, but now she stood up slowly. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they burned with anger. Mathematics, she said, her voice getting louder with each word. You want to talk about mathematics? Here's some math for you. 5 people are alive right now. In your equations, what's the value of 0 people being alive? Amanda, Veltar said softly. Anger will not change the situation, won't it? Lisa Barnes stood up next to Amanda. You know what I've been doing for the past 3 days while you've been calculating our death? I've been working. I've been thinking. I've been trying to find solutions instead of writing our obituaries. Alex, Turner spun around in his chair, and I've been trying to reach anyone who might actually care that we're alive. Did you know there are 17 other human ships within range of our signal? Want to guess how many of them are part of your precious coalition fleet? Jake stood up, and when he spoke, his voice was cold as space. None, because the coalition doesn't trust humans to command important missions. We're just along for the ride, right? Good enough to die for science, but not good enough to risk saving. Dr. Hexalon looked confused by their anger. But Captain, surely you understand the logic. To risk many for few is not rational. Rational, Jake repeated, tasting the word like it was poison. You know what's not rational? Leaving people to die when you haven't even tried to save them. You know what else isn't rational? Giving up when you still have fight left in you. Amanda walked over to the table and spread out her research notes. While you've all been preparing to die, I've been studying the energy readings from the ruins. The pulses aren't random, they're following a pattern like a heartbeat. Whatever we activated, it's trying to communicate. Lisa pulled out her engineering schematics. And I've been looking at ways to boost our power systems. The ship might be dead, but we've got tools, spare parts, and 3 days of emergency power left. That's not nothing. It's not enough, Veltar said sadly. Maybe not, Alex said, turning back to his communications equipment. But I'm not dying quietly. Every human ship in this sector is going to know what happened here. They're going to know that the coalition left us to die because saving us was inconvenient. Jake looked around the table at his crew. The aliens sat quietly, already resigned to their fate. The humans stood with fire in their eyes, ready to fight the impossible. Here's what we're going to do, Jake said. Hexalon, Veltar, Zinara. If you want to enter stasis and wait for the end, that's your choice. I won't force you to hope when you've given up. But record this in your final messages. We didn't quit. He turned to his human crew members. Amanda, I want you back in those ruins. Find out what that ancient system wants and see if we can make a deal with it. Lisa, I want you to strip every system on this ship that isn't keeping us alive. Build us something that can get us home, or at least Get us heard. And Alex, he continued, I want you to send a message to every human settlement, every independent trader, every person who might be listening. Tell them what the coalition did. Tell them that when humans needed help, their alien friends decided we weren't worth the risk. Amanda smiled for the first time in 3 days. You know this is probably suicide, right? Probably, Jake agreed. But I'd rather die trying than die waiting. Lisa was already gathering her tools. Besides, when has probably impossible ever stopped humans before? As the 3 humans prepared to begin their desperate fight for survival, the alien crew members watched them with something between admiration and disbelief. In their cultures, accepting the inevitable was considered wisdom, but they were beginning to understand that humans had a different relationship with the inevitable. They were about to learn what happened when you abandoned humans and expected them to die quietly. Amanda Price stood in the crystal chamber deep within the ancient ruins, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. She had been coming here every day for the past week, trying to understand what the ancient builders had created. The blue crystals pulsed around her like a heartbeat, and the control panel continued to display its moving symbols. Talk to me, she whispered to the ancient machine. What do you want? Above ground, Lisa Barnes was performing what could only be called mechanical miracles. She had torn apart half the ship's systems, creating a workshop that looked like organized chaos. Spare parts, tools, and jury-rigged devices covered every surface. The coffee maker had been turned into a power amplifier. The waste recycler was now part of a communication booster. Even the food dispensers had been stripped for useful components. Lisa, you need to sleep, Jake Morrison said, finding her welding together pieces of the navigation computer with the ship's exercise equipment. Sleep is for people who aren't trying to defy the laws of physics, Lisa replied, not looking up from her work. Her blonde hair was now streaked with grease and her coveralls were covered in burn marks from welding accidents. Besides, I think I'm onto something. She gestured to a collection of devices that looked like they had been built by someone who had never seen proper technology before. The energy pulses from the ruins aren't just random. They're following the same pattern as our old quantum drives. If I can match that frequency, I might be able to tap into whatever power source is running that ancient system. Jake looked at the contraption with doubt. Will it work? Probably not, Lisa admitted cheerfully. But it might not kill us either. So that's something. In the communications room, Alex Turner was broadcasting to anyone who would listen. His messages had started as simple distress calls, but they had evolved into something much more powerful. He had become the voice of human defiance, sending reports of their progress across the galaxy. This is Alex Turner aboard the Aurora's Hope, he spoke into his microphone. Day 7 of our abandonment. The Coalition fleet has written us off as acceptable losses, but humans don't stay lost that easily. Dr. Price has made contact with the ancient system. Engineer Barnes has created technology that makes our alien friends nervous. And Captain Morrison has kept us all alive through sheer stubbornness. He paused, looking at the responses that were starting to come in from human settlements across the galaxy. To anyone listening, remember this: when the Coalition decided we weren't worth saving, we decided to save ourselves, and we're not doing it quietly. The alien crew members watched these human efforts with growing amazement. Dr. Hexalon had emerged from his stasis pod after only 2 days, unable to ignore the incredible things happening around him. Amanda's approach to the ancient technology is completely illogical, he told Veltar as they observed her latest attempt to communicate with the ruins. She touches unknown devices, makes assumptions based on feelings rather than data, and ignores every safety protocol we've established. And yet, Veltar replied, she has achieved more progress in 1 week than our entire scientific team accomplished, in 3 months of preparation. It was true. Amanda had discovered that the ancient system wasn't just a machine, it was something closer to a living entity. The crystalline structures weren't just power sources. They were a form of artificial intelligence that had been waiting for someone to talk to it. You're not a weapon, Amanda said to the glowing crystals during her latest visit. You're a gardener. This whole system was built to make dead worlds come alive. The crystals pulsed brighter, and for the first time, The symbols on the control panel stopped moving. They formed patterns that Amanda's translation software could finally understand. "You've been asleep for 10,000 years, she continued. "And now you're awake but confused. You don't know what happened to your builders." The ancient system responded by showing her images, holographic projections that appeared in the air around her. She saw the moon as it had been long ago, covered in gardens and cities. She saw the beings who had built this place, tall and graceful creatures with 4 arms like the Zeltharians, but different somehow. "They're gone," Amanda said softly. "But we're here now. We can learn from you, and you can learn from us." The system showed her more images, the energy pulses that had disabled their ship, the way the moon's surface had been slowly dying over the millennia, the desperate attempts to restart the terraforming process. "You were trying to fix the moon," Amanda realized, "but you needed someone to help you, someone to work with you instead of just studying you." Meanwhile, Lisa had achieved the impossible. Her collection of jury-rigged devices had somehow managed to create a stable power connection to the ancient system. The ship's lights were brighter now, and the life support systems were running at full capacity instead of emergency levels. "I don't understand how this is working," Dr. Hexlon admitted, staring at Lisa's creation. "The power flow patterns make no mathematical sense." "That's because you're thinking like a Corvan," Lisa replied, adjusting a component that looked like it had been made from kitchen utensils. "Sometimes you have to build the bridge before you figure out why it doesn't fall down." Jake coordinated everything, making the hard decisions that kept them alive and moving forward. When Amanda needed more time in the dangerous ruins, he approved it despite the risks. When Lisa wanted to test her power systems, he gave her permission, even though failure might kill them all. When Alex wanted to broadcast their discoveries to the galaxy, he supported it even though it revealed their location to potential enemies. "Captain," Veltar said to him during one of their daily planning meetings, "I must ask, how do you make these decisions? The risk calculations are impossible to determine." Jake smiled. "That's the difference between us and the Coalition. They calculate the risks and then decide if something is worth trying. We decide it's worth trying and then figure out how to manage the risks." By the end of the second week, something remarkable had happened. The moon was changing. The energy pulses from the ruins had spread across the surface, and dead soil was beginning to show signs of life. The ancient terraforming system was working again, but it was working differently than it had 10,000 years ago. "It's learning from us," Amanda reported to the crew. "The system is adapting its programming based on what it learns from human biology and technology. It's creating an environment that can support both human life and the original ecosystem." Lisa's hybrid technology was growing more sophisticated every day. She had created devices that combined human engineering with alien science and ancient technology. Her work was producing results that none of the 3 approaches could have achieved alone. Alex's broadcasts were reaching further and further into space. Human settlements were beginning to respond, offering help and expressing outrage at the Coalition's abandonment. More importantly, they were sharing the technical data that the crew was discovering. "We're not just surviving," Jake told his crew during their morning meeting. "We're thriving, and the galaxy is watching." The alien crew members had become active participants in the human effort, inspired by the determination they witnessed every day. They provided knowledge and analysis, while the humans provided the willingness to take impossible chances. "I have lived for 200 years, Veltar said to Amanda as they worked together in the crystal chamber. "I have never seen anything like human persistence. You do not accept that things are impossible." Amanda smiled as she placed her hands on the ancient control panel, feeling it respond to her touch. "That's because we've never met an impossibility we couldn't argue with." 6 months had passed since the Coalition fleet had abandoned them to die. Now, Fleet Admiral Zethan stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the reports coming from the moon of Kepler 442c. His Corvan features showed confusion and something that might have been fear. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving multiple signals from the Aurora's Hope location. Energy readings are unprecedented." "Show me." Admiral Zethan ordered. The main screen filled with images that made no sense. Where there had once been a dead moon with ancient ruins, there was now a world that glowed with life. Green forests spread across continents that had been barren rock. Blue oceans filled valleys that had been empty for millennia. Cities of crystal and metal grew from the surface like flowers after rain. "This is impossible," the Admiral whispered. "Sir," the sensor officer added, "we're also detecting multiple ships in the system. Human vessels, mostly independent traders, and colony ships. They appear to be coming to the humans we left behind." Admiral Zethan felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Open a channel to the Aurora's Hope." The screen changed to show Captain Jake Morrison sitting in what looked like a command center built from crystal and metal. Behind him, Admiral Zethan could see humans and aliens working together on devices that he didn't recognize. Jake looked older but stronger, his eyes holding a confidence that hadn't been there before. "Admiral Zethan," Jake said, his voice calm but cold. "What a surprise. Come to check on your acceptable losses." "Captain Morrison," the Admiral began, We received reports of your survival. The Coalition is prepared to offer full assistance for your evacuation." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "Evacuation from what?" He gestured to the view behind him, where Amanda Price could be seen working with crystalline technology that pulsed with soft light. Her research had unlocked secrets that made the Coalition's best science look primitive. She had learned to speak with the ancient artificial intelligence that ran the terraforming system, creating a partnership between human intuition and alien technology. "From this," Jake continued, "from the world we built after you decided we weren't worth saving." Lisa Barnes appeared on the screen, her engineering coveralls now clean and bearing insignia that the Admiral didn't recognize. "Admiral, I've got a technical question for you. How do your ships handle quantum crystalline power matrices? Because we've got some improvements to share with the galaxy." The Admiral stared at the impossible technology visible behind her. Lisa's jury-rigged solutions had evolved into revolutionary engineering. Her hybrid systems combined human creativity with alien precision and ancient wisdom, creating technology that surpassed anything the Coalition possessed. "I don't understand," Admiral Zethan said. "Your ship was destroyed. You had no resources, no support. How did you survive?" Alex Turner's voice came through the communication system, broadcasting on multiple frequencies. "We survived because we're human, Admiral. When you left us to die, you forgot one important thing about our species. We don't die quietly." His broadcasts had reached every corner of human space and beyond. The story of their abandonment and survival had spread like wildfire, inspiring human colonies to declare independence from Coalition protection. More importantly, it had brought them allies. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Zethan tried again. "Surely you understand that the Coalition acted according to proper protocols. The risk was too great." Jake stood up from his chair, and when he spoke, his words carried the weight of 6 months of impossible achievement. "You're right, Admiral. The risk was too great. The risk of learning that humans don't need your protection. The risk of discovering that we can build something better than your careful, logical civilization." The screen showed more of their world, Defiance, as they had named it. Humans and aliens worked side by side in laboratories and workshops, creating wonders that combined the best of multiple species. The Zeltharians and Corvin who had stayed behind were no longer just crew members. They were partners in humanity's first truly independent world. "We have a proposal for you, Admiral," Amanda said, joining Jake on the screen. "The ancient intelligence that runs this world has agreed to share its knowledge. We can teach your people how to bring dead worlds to life, how to create technology that grows instead of just being built." She gestured to the thriving landscape visible through the command center's crystal windows. "All we ask in return is that the Coalition recognize our independence and treat us as equals, not subjects." Admiral Zethan's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. The Admiral's expression grew more troubled as he listened to the report. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said slowly, "my officers inform me that 17 human colonies have declared independence from Coalition protection in the past month. They're all requesting the technology you've developed." 18, Alex corrected cheerfully. New Terra just sent their declaration this morning. Turns out humans don't like being told their acceptable losses. The Admiral tried one more time. The Coalition offers you full membership status. You would have equal votes in all decisions, access to all our technology, and protection throughout known space. Jake looked at his crew, Amanda with her revolutionary science, Lisa with her impossible engineering, Alex with his galaxy-spanning communications network. He looked at Veltar and Zinara, who had become humanity's first alien allies, and Dr. Hexlon, who now served as an advisor to their new government. We appreciate the offer, Admiral, Jake said finally, but we already have equal status with the species that matter. As for protection, he smiled. We've learned to protect ourselves. The screen split to show multiple views of their world. Humans and aliens worked together in crystal cities that grew from the living rock. Ships landed and took off from spaceports that looked more like gardens than military installations. Children played in parks where the trees themselves were technological marvels. This is what happens when you don't abandon people to die, Amanda said. This is what you could have had if you'd been willing to take a risk for something greater than survival. Admiral Zethan stared at the impossible world they had created. What do you want from us? Nothing, Jake replied. But if you ever need something impossible done, if you ever face a situation where your careful calculations say there's no hope, remember this moment. Remember what humans can accomplish when their backs are against the wall. And remember, Lisa added, that next time we'll be the ones deciding if the risk is worth taking. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Zethan staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew worked quietly, processing the reports that changed everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. In his final log entry, the Admiral wrote words that would be studied in military academies for generations. We abandoned them because the mathematics said they would die. They lived because they refused to accept the mathematics. The Coalition must reconsider its assumptions about acceptable losses and the true value of human determination. On the world called Defiance, Jake Morrison made his own log entry. They left us to die because we were inconvenient. We lived because we were human. Today we are no longer the species that begs for acceptance in galactic society. Today, we are the species that others come to when they need miracles. Outside the Crystal Command Center, the ancient terraforming system continued its work, guided by human dreams and alien wisdom. The impossible had become routine, and the abandoned had become the architects of a new age among the stars.